Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Dapr Community Call. If this is your first time joining one of our community calls, welcome. Uh, Here we usually have like a bi-weekly conversation where we talk about like some of the things that happen in the Dapr community. We share updates. We talk about some of the things our community members have been building. My name is Cecil Phillip. I am one of the community managers here for the Dapr project. And we have a big agenda for you today. Lots of updates and lots of things to share. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So really quick for our agenda, we're gonna have Whit Waldo. He's gonna be joining us first to talk about some updates to the .NET SDK coming in 1.15. Then we'll have Oliver Tomlinson talking to us about creative ways of using Dapr Workflows. Then Mark, who is one of our other community managers, he's going to talk to us about the state of Dapr survey. We'll also talk about the Dapr Meteors program, which I think is a really fun and exciting thing for us to talk about. And then we'll get into some community show and tell and some other updates a little bit later on. So with that being said, I'm going to bring with Waldo on our stage, and I'm going to kind of hand the reins over to you and let you get to it.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to talk about what is new with the Dapr.NET SDK in 1.15, or I guess rather what will be new. There's a lot that we did. There's not a whole lot of time, so I guess bear with me. This is going to be a far more of a rapid fire presentation than not. We're going to kind of go through four things. Kind of what's new, I guess the bug fix that we have, a breaking change that was kind of broadcast in the last release, and then just kind of things that we're going to look ahead to. So what's new? We're going to have purpose-built clients, Dapr jobs, streaming subscriptions, conversational AI, some other changes. We'll go through those one at a time. So the Dapr actors, I want to be clear, Dapr actors, Dapr clients, they're ASP.NET Core packages. They're not going to go anywhere for a while, but we're increasingly looking to split the functionality over time to more purpose-specific packages. You already saw this a little bit with Dapr Workflow. We're going to this release will also introduce Dapr.jobs, Dapr.ai, Dapr.messaging, and we'll see where we kind of go from there. Why are we doing this? A couple reasons. It means developers can pick and choose only those packages that they will need to avoid any unnecessary dependencies. It'll improve startup time. It'll improve resource usage. You're only initializing those things that you actually need to use. And it kind of gives us a clean slate to kind of build forward on. Right now, Dapr.client does not have nullability annotations. They're in Dapr.workflow. They'll be in all these new packages. Kind of give us a place to kind of start from scratch and really, kind of focus on first-class support for dependency injection, so we can reduce some of the need for rebuilding, reconfiguring clients from the static builders. And then, it'll simplify and focus our documentation examples that we don't necessarily have to have really top-down. Here's install this big old package, use these things. We can just kind of say, pull this little package, do these little things. So Dapr jobs, it will be part, again, of 1.15. It's very easy to register. I guess a quick note about what it is. We've seen the release in 1.4 about the Dapr jobs or the Dapr scheduler. For clarity, the jobs API runs on top of the Dapr scheduler service, allows you to schedule callbacks based on time span, cron expressions, or interval expressions, without having to provide an app rebuild to receive those job invocations. So you've been able to use this so far via the HTTP API. These will now be available as part of the Dapr.jobs package. Cron expressions are expected to support 6 fields, so the usual 5 as well as seconds. And note, the job scheduler itself is not UTC-based. It uses the time zone on the machine that the scheduler service is running from. That is handled for you as part of this SDK. So don't necessarily have to worry about it, just wanted to call it out. So how do you use it? You'll register the Dapr jobs client with DI, as you see in the example. Then you have to define a schedule for the job. There are a number of opportunities of how you can schedule this. You've got recurring jobs, you've got point-in-time jobs. Recurring jobs, you specify a time span. You can set whatever you want. This is going to operate a lot more like actor reminders or workflow reminders, and then you're saying, from now, how much time do I want before the job is actually invoked? So there are a number of constants available. or you can specify your own time span. You can schedule a job using a cron expression. There's a builder built into it using a Fluent API to build out this expression. Cron is kind of a leg up over the active reminders. If you want to invoke a job that runs on the first day of each month, that's very easily done, in the second example. If you want to do that with a reminder, a little bit more tricky because, there's a differing number of days each month. So, this cron expression is kind of a leap forward in doing that. But, say you want an expression that, you just don't want to bother with a builder for, that's fine. Use the string, pass one in. You can even use the various prefix periods, so every or weekly or daily. We saw the constants of those on the last slide, but you can do every as well. And then there's the point in time scheduling. So you can specify, when exactly it is that you want the job to run as kind of more of a one-off thing. Again, general reminder, the job scheduler is not UTC based, uses the time zone from the machine that the scheduler service is running on. But because this is the datetime offset, this will serialize and use that included time zone. The scheduler will adhere to that and then fall over to the server time only if that time zone is not there. So don't really have to worry about that. Otherwise, kind of bring it all together, schedule the job. You need a name, the schedule that it's running on. You can optionally include a payload. You can specify a not before time date. You can specify the maximum number of times the job should trigger, regardless of whatever schedule it is that you set, and when the job should expire. So when it won't trigger after. And then finally, you have to specify what will happen when the job is actually invoked. So it's built to work in a manner similar to ASP.NET Core's minimal API mechanism with regards to dependency injection. The first parameter has to be a nullable string that will contain the job name. The second parameter has contain the Dapr job details, also as a nullable type. The last parameter has to be a cancellation token. Between the third argument and onwards, put whatever it is that you want. It will auto inject that from the DI registrations. And otherwise, the Dapr job details contains information about the schedule, the job expiration, repeat counts, all these optional types that we covered on the last slide, as well as the payload. I would recommend that the jobs largely be handled a lot like active reminders, and you put some kind of a switch case statement to specify, do this thing based on what the job name is, potentially pass that into a separate injected service to handle it. The streaming subscriptions, they will also come in this next release. Pretty straightforward. It's they're going to allow you to say where previously you define them in your subscriptions in an external YAML file, or you would use the topic attribute on an ASP.NET Core project. The streaming subscriptions allow you to say at runtime, this is what I'm going to do for an arbitrary subscription to whatever this topic or queue is, any pub sub component. To do this, you'll just need your component name, the topic or queue name, a policy that indicates what should happen when one of these when your message handler times out, and a delegate that just kind of says how the message is handled. So again, we're going to start by registering the client with DI. When the messages are received, you need to provide a delegate that says what to do with them. And it's very important that this responds with when the operation is complete, whether or not it was successful, or the sidecar needs to retry the message, or there was some failure, but they should just be dropped. And if you have a dead letter queue set up, do that. Otherwise, messages will come in. They're saved to an internal channel so that you can process each of these. You can set up your own cancellation token source to set up timeouts. Otherwise, handle it as you will, return success, and repeat for the next one. When you're done with them, this slide kind of says how to set them up. When you're done with them, simply dispose of it. So it's a type you can pass around. It's just a simple main IE sync disposable. Dispose of it to close the connection. It'll process any remaining messages already queued and then free those resources. This will 1.5 is also launching with a new conversational building block for engaging with large language models in a more consistent manner. And the .NET SDK will include support for it from day one. It's an alpha state, so this may change over time as the implementation stabilizes in later releases, but don't necessarily let that stop you from using it. This is pretty much all you need. It's very straightforward. Again, register with the dependency injection, retrieve the service in this case, and converse. You send messages to it. It will receive the messages back and do with them as you will. A few other changes that we've seen. So, of course, 1.5 will continue to target .NET 6 and .NET 8. In 1.16, so the next release, we intend to provide full support for .NET 9. We don't presently target .NET 7 except in Dapr Workflow. Of course, that's been end-of-lifed. So again, 1.5 will continue to target .NET 6, .NET 8. In 1.16, we'll drop support for .NET 6 and .NET 7, retain .NET 8, and then add official support for .NET 9. At that point, we'll also migrate the language version that's used from C# 10 to C# 12. So that'll be nice. We intend to kind of follow the support cycle, trailing the .NET releases by a version going forward. We've switched to centralized package management ahead of the .NET 9 support, and we've updated all the packages across the solution to address the various vulnerabilities cited by the .NET 9 compiler. So we're ahead of that. That will come in this release. We've added support to create an invocable HTTP client from a Dapr client instance. Previously, if you use the static method on the Dapr client, it meant that you didn't get any of the values that you previously configured as part of DI. So any custom endpoints, authentication tokens, any custom headers, and you always had to keep re-adding those back in. But now this instance of the HTTP client will reflect whatever the Dapr client was initialized with, and that'll be in there. We're changing how you're sourcing configuration values. So right now, it will prefer those first provided directly to the registration method. It will then attempt to pull those out from an I configuration. So in case you're pulling from a configuration file or environmental variable or what have you, and it'll finally fail over to attempt retrieval from the environment variable per the names in the documentation. Actors now use an incremental source generator. Thanks as a community contribution contributed a couple days ago by M3NAX. So thank you for putting that together. And then the Dapr pluggable components .NET SDK will add the ability to register and implement secret stores. So that's great. We have one bug fix. Suspended workflows used to show an unknown status. They will now show suspended as they should. One breaking change to note, workflows. So as part of the stability effort in this release, there were a number of methods both in the Dapr Workflow client and in Dapr client. Those have been removed from Dapr client, absolutely. One of those methods was entirely obsolete. Start workflow async, we don't use that anymore. Instead, you schedule new workflow async and just don't put a due time and it'll start immediately. Otherwise, get workflow response and workflow failure details. Those were both in Dapr clients. Those have been moved to Dapr Workflow client. So if you're using either of those, you may need to update those namespaces. And then finally, all the examples have been updated to reflect all these. So in the process of finishing up PRs, merging additional workflow examples, and we'll aim to have examples for task chaining, monitor, external interaction, fan out, fan in. Pretty much all the examples detailed in the docs we'll have here. And then finally, looking ahead, we're going to continue to build out these discrete purpose-specific clients. 1.16 again will feature .NET 9 and drop .NET 6 and 7. We'll add keyed Dapr clients. So that was an ask from last year that I think makes some sense to add. We're going to look to build out a stronger integration with .NET Aspire, see what we can do on that front. And then on testing, we're adding more test coverage, building out richer end-to-end testing, and adding some performance tests across the board. This should ideally lead to more identification of if there are any bugs out there we don't know about, find those bugs and fix them. And then finally, again, if there's anything else you really want to see in the SDK, please don't hesitate to file a feature request in GitHub. And if it's a feature you want to see in Dapr itself, file that feature request in the Dapr repo. Links are on the slide. And otherwise, look forward to talking with you on Discord. Thanks for your time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Whit. That was a really good update on what are some of the things that we could look forward to in 1.15 and .NET. I did have some questions that I wanted to ask you about some of the things that you talked about. So
Yeah.
first question. So you mentioned we're moving away from that monolithic SDK, right? Like that Dapr clients, everything, to like
Yes.
more purpose-driven SDKs. So
Yes.
does that mean that like Dapr clients is going away? Like we're no longer be able to use that package,
Long
or
term.
are these package additions?
Long term. These will continue to be there. New functionality is being added into their purpose-specific packages and not into Dapr Client. Dapr Client is seeing fixes, changes to how it will still benefit from, again, you want to spin up that create HTTP client. You do that from Dapr Client, so it's still seeing changes, still seeing improvements. It's just kind of the long-term plan is as new features are added in Dapr. Build those out more focused on these more specific packages, so that developers can increasingly start using these cleaner, newer packages that again offer details like the nullability annotations and much better dependency injection.
Okay, I think that makes sense too, because now it allows developers to just pick and choose the parts that they want, right? Which is a story that we've always told people about Dapr. Like you can choose the part that you want to use or not.
Exactly. I mean, a big focus of recent versions of .NET releases have been focusing on startup time and reducing resource usage. This enables that. If you don't need pub sub capabilities, there's no reason to be spinning up instances or spending time registering these instances if you're never going to use them. And that's kind of the idea. If you need to use every aspect of Dapr, by all means, go forth and do it. There's a very easy way of registering each of these now. But if you only need bits and pieces, there's no need to download the entire the entire feature set.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so I have two more small questions I want to ask you, and then we're going to move forward to have Oliver come on. So first question was, so you talked about that conversational AI preview that we're going to have, right? And this is, again, we're talking, this is going to be in Dapr in general, but specifically for the .NET SDK aspect of it. Is that going to support the .NET.ai extensions that was released a few weeks or so ago?
I don't know.
Not sure.
I don't know anything about the extensions.
Okay. So that sounds like an issue.
I'm looking forward to reading up on them.
We can add that in Twitter. We can talk about it. And then the next one was for the messaging part. So you showed the description and how we can add like the handler to it. Is the SDK, or are there any thoughts about the SDK adding in like a message pump so that we don't have to like create our own workers, and we could just say, here's a method and do that, subscription and disposal
with regards to conversational AI or something else?
With regards to the streaming messaging, the messaging aspect.
Oh, streaming messaging. So it has a built-in channel. It's using the .NET channels on the back end. As the messages come in, it's going to be queuing those in an unbounded channel, so that you can specify, if you want to bound it as one of the overloads and how you set the thing up. But it is queuing those on the back end. So again, it's going to require that you specify whether or not you successfully processed it or not. If it fails to process, and that's because the Dapr API itself requires that you tell the client what to do about that message. Because again, if it succeeded, great, delete it. If it didn't succeed, is this something that it needs to go back into your queue, or is it something that we're either deleting it or sending it to dead letter? So you have to essentially tell us what to do about it. You can specify timeouts. Again, how the timeouts themselves are handled are part of the policy that you set up at the beginning during this registration. And essentially you're going to tell us what to do about handling it. When should the various parts of the timeout. Here's how it is that you're going to process each of these messages, but then otherwise how it's handling the queue of what exactly is happening, you don't have to worry about it.
Gotcha. Awesome.
And again, when you're done with the whole thing, just dispose of it and you're done. Disposing of it, again, will not immediately terminate it. It will go through, it'll tell it to close the connection so it doesn't receive anything new, but it will continue to process any remaining messages already queued in there, and then it'll dispose of everything.
Gotcha. And so we don't have any date set on 115, do we? That we could share with folks?
I don't know of any hard dates. I know we're aiming for early December.
Early.
So we
Okay.
just had a feature freeze recently.
Okay. Awesome. Well, hey, Whit, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate these updates. And like you mentioned, if folks are interested in contributing and being a part of the conversation with what happens with the .NET SDK for Dapr specifically, yep, here we go. Here's the repo, and then also please remember to also check us out on the Discord channel where there is a .NET SDK channel as well if you want to continue to have some of these conversations.
Absolutely. Right. Chat in .NET or pick any of the subjects. I'll see you in all of them.
All right, great. All right, Whit, I'm going to take you off screen, and then I'm going to bring up Oliver. But thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, Oliver, your turn, my friend. You are on deck. So you're going to be talking to us about creative ways of using the Dapr Workflows, right?
That's right, yes. Hey, everybody. I'm Oliver. I'm a Dapr community contributor and user. I'm particularly excited about workflows. I think they represent something that's really, really, really good for the industry and how we model our processes, business processes and workflows as code. And it's awesome that Dapr is near stable with the current release of Dapr for workflows, and the next version hopefully will be fully stable too. But I just wanted to speak to the wider community today, because like my goal for this is to inspire you in a similar way to how I was inspired by one of the community members on Discord actually, and I really hope this resonates, because someone on Discord came to a problem saying, hey, I've got a workflow and it calls some activities, and the activities is calling a downstream service. I think it was like an ML model, and we really want to constrain the throughput of requests to that ML model through that API. And there's loads of ways to do that. There's loads of ways. Backoffs is a really common one, but it doesn't give you. Backoffs don't give you any kind of fairness around who's next, whose turn is it next out of all these competing processes, whose turn is it next to talk to that constrained resource, such as that MML API, or is it a database that's on fire and it can only support so many concurrent requests? It's a really hard problem to solve when you're trying to deal with multiple processes all competing for that thing, particularly if those processes are distributed across different nodes, data centers, etc. The more it's distributed, the harder it becomes. And then you want to do it at scale, right? You want to do thousands of processes, all targeting that constrained resource. And there's no glamorous way to do it. It is hard. So the user came on Discord and we chatted, and that got me thinking, maybe there's a solution here where we can use Dapr Workflows to solve this issue. So, it's a common story, as I've described: more processors, more fire, database setting on fire in this example, and eventually, the thing's completely on fire when you've got so many processors. And then we've got Moss from IT Crowd just putting the fire over there where the rest of the fire is. And you might think, okay, we can use a semaphore or something similar to kind of gate the access to that downstream constrained resource. Cool, write a semaphore library, use one. Okay, now it has to share state, and sharing state is not glamorous. You've got optimistic concurrency controls issues, you've got E-tag issues, you've got a whole bunch of different issues there. It's not glamorous. It's entirely doable with enough time, but it's not glamorous. You might choose to encapsulate all that in a service and have it as like a gateway or a proxy that can do all that for you and make the decision for you. Once again, entirely valid solution, but it is work. So if we think about what a semaphore actually is, it's a series of waits and signals. You are delegating control to some arbiter that says, go ahead, do your thing, or please wait, please hold back. And when you look at this process top to bottom, this can be modeled with a workflow. So we could have a workflow that represents a semaphore, which is interacting with our workflow that is which is wrapping our activity, which calls our constrained resource. So I guess I was having fun with this one, and I just wanted to try and see if I could express this whole process as a workflow. And I don't want to spend too long showing code, because I think it's really boring showing loads of code, and you want to digest this on your own time. So I'll make it all available, but I'll quickly show it in action. The throttle workflow is just very simply using the Dapr workflow primitives that you've got access to. So wait for external event, one of the primitives, and then a when any, so being able to wait for the completion of multiple things, and then wrapping it all up with a continue as new. So the whole workflow here is like 100 lines of code, and that's .NET code, so a lot of it's braces and white space, right? So it's really simple to implement this kind of distributed semaphore throttling process in a workflow. And I'll just give you a quick show of how that's going to work in the wild. So I've got a workflow. It's going to call, its only job is to call a very slow activity, and that very slow activity takes about 10 seconds. So let's pretend that activity is what's calling our very slow database or our very rate limited third-party API. And all I've done here is wrapped that sensitive activity call with a couple of calls to a couple of signals, in fact, a couple of events to our throttle workflow. And the throttle workflow is going to interact with it. So if we just check the status of that throttle workflow right now, you can see I've got 3 there for max waits, which means max concurrency is 3. So this throttle workflow is only ever going to allow 3 other of those activities to be concurrently processing at any one time. And it's processing none right now, and nothing's in the queue. So I'm just going to throw one straight through, one of our constrained workflows, and jump back, get the status of that workflow, and you can see active waits 1, which is it's actively waiting for that 10-second job to finish right now. If I check the status again, it's probably going to go to 0. Great, so it was done. Let's check how long our downstream workflow took. How long did it wait for? It waited for 12 milliseconds, and that's fine because the semaphore was completely open. There was no contention for the semaphore, so it was pretty much straight in. So that 12 milliseconds is just a bit of network traffic between the workflows, and maybe a couple of state operations too. So let's flood that throttle with 6 competing activities, and then let's see what happens. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then go back, check the status. Here we can see we've got 3 active and 3 pending. So that means 3 have fully occupied the semaphore up to its maximum, and 3 are still waiting. Once again, 10 seconds for each one of those jobs to complete. And refreshed it again. And okay, now there's just 1 in progress and 0 waiting. Refresh again and 0, 0. So if all is correct here, that last workflow of the 6 that I scheduled, that should have waited for a little bit longer because it had to wait for the semaphore to open up. So let's check. Here you can see the workflow was throttled for just under 10 seconds, which is exactly what I expected. It waited for 10 seconds before it was allowed to proceed. So in a few lines of code, using the primitives of Dapr Workflows, we were able to repeat that process. No new services, no new states, no new libraries, just a couple of lines of code, and sequencing that together. Yeah, and I hope that inspires you to give it a play. And I know someone on the Discord has already took this example and changed it into Python. which is awesome. So it truly demonstrates how flexible Dapr workflows are. Great. Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Oliver. That was definitely great. I'm curious, do you have any, like, what else have you done with workflows? Because I'm looking at you kind of go through this process, and I'm just like, I feel like you have like these really interesting ideas about like some of the use cases that you can apply workflows to. Like, what are some other things that you could imagine, like outside of your standard, I'm going to run fulfillment or some backend process. Like, what are some interesting patterns you think that workflows would be a good solution for?
I think this is like workflows is a bit of a drug, really. When you start understanding the primitives of
Yeah.
of what they can do, and particularly the continuous new, the monitor loop, you've got the harness there for almost like a stateful machine, a stateful process, similar to actors really, but a little bit more accessible. And you can really run wild with it. I've used it to create some IoT backends where I've had a looping workflow for maintaining the state of an IoT device. Once again, actors are perfectly suitable for that kind of thing, but sometimes things feel a little bit easier depending on your circumstances.
Yeah.
And in my previous life, I used workflow as code engines, very similar to Dapr, and I was able to do some really complex telco network routing with that. Some scaling to thousands of messages a minute, all using these kind of workflow as code engines. So there's a lot of mileage in these if you can spend the time just to try it and have a play, and before you know it, you'll be thinking in new ways of how you can model your business processes as the combination of these workflows talking to each other.
Yeah. We got a comment in the chat just a little while ago, specifically about workflows. But this person's saying, I'm trying to find a place with essentially like using semantic kernel, which is an AI extension for .NET, for workflows, right? Like, do you see workflows as being a place that folks can apply to building these AI bots and agents and those types of things? Like, do you think it'll be a good solution for folks to try out in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. I've not done anything recently with AI, but any kind of human to machine handoff where there is an indeterminate amount of time between those two is a great use case for workflows. I used it for a chatbot back a couple of years ago on Azure Durable Functions, to power a chatbot, because it's perfectly capable of having thousands of these kind of workflows running all concurrently, but almost idle, not consuming any CPU, barely consuming any memory, just sat there waiting for their turn for
Yeah.
someone to send it a message, and then it wakes up. Very similar to virtual actors. So yeah, absolutely. We've only scratched the surface, right? I think, of what's possible.
Yeah, I mean, that solution you talked about with Chatbox sounds actually kind of interesting. Maybe we can have you come back on in another future community call, and we could do like a workflows conversion from durable functions and see what that looks like. Like, I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, I think that'll be definitely great. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. I can imagine folks wanted to go through like that turn-based externally stimulated type process, and I think workflows would be great for that. And I think that's exactly what a lot of folks do when they're building these bots, they're building these agents. And particularly what Whit mentioned a little while ago, like we're gonna have like the conversational support coming in 115 for Dapr. So definitely I could imagine a lot of folks taking those two building blocks and putting them together to start making some really interesting solutions. So I'm definitely looking forward for that. But I guess with that, I mean, we don't have too many more questions. But thank you so much, Oliver. Do you have anything else that you want to share with folks before we go and we move on to the next topic?
No, thank you for having me on the community call, and please join Discord and get involved, and we're always happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and like you said, we'll see you all we'll see you in Discord.
Thanks so much.
All right, man. See you. All right, folks. Next up, I'm going to bring Mark on. Mark is one of our community managers. I'm sure if you've been on the community calls before, you've seen Mark. And we're going to talk about the state of Dapr survey. So Mark, what is this thing? Like, what do we have here?
Yes, hi everyone. Well, the state of Dapr reports, because we did this also last year, that contains actually a lot of information about how Dapr developers are using Dapr, right? So what are their technology stack, what are their favorite Dapr APIs, what components are they using, but also in what kind of business vertical are they operating and using Dapr, and what do they think works well with Dapr, but also what do you think does not work well with Dapr yet, right? So it's actually a very good way to provide feedback about Dapr. So yeah, it's really important that a lot of people that actually use Dapr in production, or maybe just using Dapr in a proof of concept, if you can actually help us with providing feedback using this state of Dapr survey. I will copy the link in the chat very, very soon. But no, it's just it's like I think the best moment to provide feedback for Dapr end users. And it doesn't matter if you're like a developer or an architect or CTO who's using Dapr. Yeah, we welcome all kinds of feedback through this survey. And I think it also can help like the Dapr maintainers as well, right? Because maybe some kind of issue is highlighted via the survey, and that might help or inspire the Dapr maintainers. Okay, for the next planning session, let's need to focus on these improvements or these features if there's like a big need for it.
And it's so interesting you brought that up, because Tom, who's in the chat, had also made a comment about sometimes it's a little difficult to convince managers how easy it is for them to adopt Dapr, implement Dapr, and use it in some of their projects. And so I think reports like these are really helpful to help make that case, right? Because not only is it coming from, this is what the Dapr folks are saying, this is, here's what the community are saying, and here are different companies and different organizations that are already doing it, and here's what their feedback is.
Exactly. Yeah. And this feedback is completely anonymous, right? So it's not that you'll be named if you don't want to. So if you do want to have like a quote, that's would be great. Of course, we love to have like a real quotes from real people there. But you can submit this like some anonymously. Of course, we will capture your information, but we will not publicize everything in this report. So we'll be very careful with that. But indeed, you can really use this report indeed with your managers or CTO, CXO level to show that people are using this tool to achieve certain results and to achieve like 30% an increase in development time just by using Dapr. So yeah, you can definitely use this as like a tool to convince people to use Dapr. Yeah.
Nice. So this survey is open now. How long do folks have before it closes? Is this gonna be open for a week? Is it gonna be open for a month? Is it gonna be open to the end of the year? Like, how long does this?
It will definitely be open for like a couple of weeks, but yeah, the sooner we collect it, the easier and the better it is, right? So don't postpone with submitting it.
Don't take too long
until the end of the year. No, it also doesn't take too long, right? It's a big questionnaire, that's true, but you can complete it in 5 minutes or so. So just grab a coffee and then maybe you do it before your actual work starts, and submit this survey. We really value it.
Okay, great. And so for folks that are watching live in the chat, so that link is in the chat stream, so you can definitely go over there and check that out. And also, if you follow us on social media, on Mastodon, on Blue Sky, on Twitter, and all
Blue Sky is new. Yes, Blue Sky.
On LinkedIn, like the link has been posted. We've shared it around the place, so folks can definitely bring that up as well.
We should actually share the new Blue Sky handle. I will also copy that into the chat a bit later. Yeah.
Okay. All right, awesome. Well, so again, folks, that is the State of Dapr 2024 survey. The 2023 survey is available and is on that link as well. So if you want to see, how things have changed from 23 to 24, fill out the survey for this year, and definitely make sure you check out the survey from last year to see what the responses have been like. Now, with that being said, Mark, I think we're going to move forward. You and I are going to have a little bit of a conversation about the Meteors program.
Yes, let me move on. Yeah. And before we talk about the meteors, maybe it's nice to actually highlight that the community section on the Dapr website is now completely revamped. It's become, I think, much more clear how people can actually be part of the Dapr community and how they can contribute and use certain assets that we have. So I think we already mentioned the Dapr Discord quite a lot, so I think that's obvious. Well, people are watching. Thank you. We do these bi-weekly community calls. But for instance, we also have a Dapr template, like a slide deck. So if you want to do like Dapr presentations, we have like a slide deck with like over 140 slides that you can use to create your own Dapr presentations. So that's, I think, pretty useful. I definitely use it all the time.
I definitely have borrowed that slide deck a few times to create some presentations. It's definitely a great presentation. It covers all the different building blocks that are in there. And I believe, Mark, you do a really good job of updating it, because as new building blocks are added, like you continually add to it. So as I can imagine, as the new, conversational things, for instance, are added, like there'll probably be additional sections for that as well. So that just kind of helps folks get a quick jump start without having to think about, oh, where do I get like the assets from and the design from? Like you can kind of just make use of that presentation.
Exactly, yeah, and there are all kinds of shapes and things you can use and make your own diagrams pretty easily. So that's definitely good.
Yep.
All right. Then what else you can do? Well, you can collect different Dapr badges. The most obvious one, maybe if you do like a contribution in code or in documentation, you can get Dapr badges for all the different Dapr repositories, and there are quite a lot of repositories. But you can also get a Dapr badge if you do a presentation at an event, or if you write a blog post, because there are also like 2 different badges you can collect for those. And you can actually update a markdown file in the Dapr/community repo, and then include the link of the video where you present it, or include the blog post link that you wrote, and then we'll give you these badges. And it will be very nice if you can share them there as well.
Nice.
So we talked about contributing on GitHub. Well, of course, there's our YouTube, because we are live streaming to YouTube there. And by the way, I think you'll share it later that all of the sessions from Dapr Day are also on YouTube now. Of course, you can follow on X, and we need to add a card because we recently created an account for Blue Sky, so you can also follow us on Blue Sky now. And this is the major new thing. You can become a Dapr Meteor. So let's have a look at this Dapr Meteors program. So this is our new Dapr community program. So if you're like very active in the Dapr community, you're writing about it, you're giving presentations about it, you're very active in the Dapr Discord and so on, then you can nominate yourself to become a Dapr Meteor. So this is really quite an exciting program. Really only for like just a few people who are like very active in the community. And there are certain benefits you can you get if you become a Dapr Meteor. So for instance, you can participate in the open source planning calls to help prioritize Dapr features, and you can collaborate with the Dapr open source team. There are other regular calls with the Dapr maintainers to provide like feedback about Dapr and where they can answer your questions. The profiles of the Dapr Meteors are shared on this page. If I scroll a bit to the bottom, we'll introduce the first 4 ones. You'll receive some very special Dapr swag, and that's the thing you see here is the Dapr neon sign. And yeah, what I really like is that you get access to a budget that you can use to organize local in-person meetups about Dapr and distributed computing. So yeah, I definitely need to recommend everyone, if you're active in the community, you can fill in a form that's here. It's a Dapr Meteor nomination form, and here you provide your details. You have to provide, of course, some evidence. What have you done in the community? Links to blog posts or links to sessions where you presented, and so on. And then the Dapr community managers and the sponsors of this program, in this case, it's Digrid. We will review all of these submissions twice per year, once in early April and once in early October. And then we'll select who the new Dapr Meteors will be.
Nice. And then, like it says here, that happens twice a year, right? So April and October. And it just so happened this October we announced a bunch of new meteors, our first cohort, I guess. Dapr Meteors, exactly. which is super exciting. And we announced those at the 5-year celebration of Dapr we had just the other day, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we introduced these 4 people. So the first one is Alex Meng. He is from Romania, and he's been doing a lot of events, a lot of presentations on Dapr over the years. We have Etten van Wijk, and I'm gonna also name in the same sentence as Sander Molenkamp, because these 2 gave a lot of Dapr workshops at different large events. So maybe some people here who are watching this actually participated in one of these workshops. So thank you guys for doing that. And the last one of the first 4 Dapr Meteors is Will Valida, and he has been doing a lot of writing, also giving sessions. And the most recent thing is YouTube videos about Dapr, which we've actually shared quite some times in the Dapr Community Call. So these are the 4 first Dapr Meteors.
Awesome. So if folks are interested, like Mark said, head over to dapr.io/community/program, and then you can learn all about the Meteors program. You can see who our Meteors are, and if you want to nominate or self-nominate yourself to join the Meteors program, definitely feel free to go ahead and fill out that form.
Check.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it. And hopefully looking forward to see like the new set of Meteors we get in April, upcoming April.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to lots of nominations, Anita, definitely.
Nice. All right, so now we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna get into the community show and tell part. So I'm just gonna bring this up really quick, and let's see some of the things that have happened in our community in the past couple of weeks. And I know we've had our Dapr Day thing, and then we haven't actually done one of these. So there's actually a lot of stuff that's happened. First off, I want to call out KubeCon is happening on November 12th through 15th. One of the main reasons why I want to bring that up is because there's always tons of amazing sessions from folks that are in our community. Some of our meteors might be there. Some of the founders are going to be there talking about Dapr, giving Dapr sessions. I believe Diagrid might probably be there. They might probably be a booth, and so folks can go over there and learn about how they're helping support the Dapr community. And I believe App Developer Con, I think it's a part of KubeCon. It's like a part of it or a side thing of it, but it's happening at the same time at the same place. So
it's a co-located event, yeah. So the day before, then it's App Developer Con. Yep.
There you go. So on the first day, so the 12th, App Developer Con will be there. And I believe we're going to have at least 3 Dapr talks that are going to be there. So if folks are thinking about going, if folks are considering going, if you're in the Utah area and you want to learn about Dapr, this would be a great place for you to head over and again talk to some of the folks that are already in the community. Another thing that's happening, API World, happening online, I believe, on November 12th through 14th. Just also so happens to be around the same time as KubeCon. There will be a workshop talking about the Catalyst APIs. So if folks are interested in learning about the Catalyst APIs, learning about how you could, how they work with Dapr and how you can help enhance your Dapr integration, this is a workshop that you can sign up for. You can do it online live, or it's actually happening, I think, next week, the 5th through the 7th, if you want to do it in person in California. But like I said, like the online version is available. So if folks want to wait until the 12th, you can do it online from the comfort of your own space. And again, you can learn from Fernando, who is a customer success engineer at Diagrid, about how the Catalyst APIs work. Okay. All right. So moving forward really quick, like we have a bunch of blog posts that have come out over the last couple of weeks. This first one looks kind of interesting. It talks about like scalable ML inferencing using Knative, Ollama, and Dapr on Kubernetes. Definitely recommend you check that out. Next one talks about adding the Dapr extension for Kubernetes service with Terraform. I actually didn't even know there was a Dapr extension for Azure Kubernetes service, but I guess there is. So if that is something, if you're a customer of Azure Kubernetes, if you use that in your projects, definitely make sure you check out the extension and check out this blog post that talks about, again, setting it up with Terraform. And then we have some other blog posts talking about like, event-driven application development. And, this third one there, when a platform meets developers, it's really interesting thought piece around like open source and then how open source kind of helps bring the community together and how, these products just help us all make applications a little bit better. So definitely recommend we check that out if you ever have the time. Next up, there's a lot of video that has been released over Dapr. I couldn't fit them all on the slide. I tried my best, but this is some of the ones that I think are really interesting. You should definitely check out. Mark, who's here on top of my head at the moment, did a really interesting video on the Meteors community program that we just spoke about. We've also had, videos from our founders, Mark, not this Mark, the other Mark, Mark Fussell, Mark on your own at InfoQ. They had an interesting conversation there about Dapr as well. And then again, we have some folks in the community at different conferences and events also talking about Dapr. Oh my goodness. This is going to play all these videos, isn't it? I don't want it to play the videos. I'm trying not to get to play the videos. All right, let me do this. I'm going to come out.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to.
In the meantime, I'm also sharing a blog post that lists all of the Dapr related sessions at KubeCon, because there's also like a Dapr maintainers track, a session in the maintainers track at KubeCon as well.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, there's lots of stuff, Dapr stuff happening at KubeCon. And I also want to promote a Dapr workshop that's happening on the Monday before KubeCon. So
Wow.
I'm actually going to give a Dapr workshop together with Fernando, like a Dapr 101 session about state management, service notification, and PubSub. So I will share the link here as well.
Yeah, you folks are not making me jealous at all that I'm not on KubeCon. Like, there's no FOMO or anything of the sort going on at the moment.
Yeah.
So folks that don't know, like a couple weeks ago, we had Dapr Day, where we celebrated 5 years of Dapr. Dapr is officially 5 years old, or 5 years plus old. And so all of those videos are now available on the Dapr YouTube channel inside of this playlist. So if you missed any of the sessions, if you didn't get to see Dapr Day at all live when it was happening, you can kind of go through and check out the keynotes and some of the other interesting talks, from our maintainers and from our community folks, and learn about how companies are using Dapr. So definitely recommend you check that out if you have the chance to. Okay, now moving forward a little bit. Yeah, a lot of things have been happening again on social media. One thing in particular I wanted to call out. So if folks are on Twitter/X, Yaron, who is one of the co-founders and one of the the maintainers of Dapr, he did a Twitter space. He did a Twitter space with some folks. You can go online now and listen to the recording if folks weren't able to catch it live, and you can hear him kind of talk a little bit about graduation and what that kind of means for him and the Dapr project, and overall just kind of giving folks an understanding about what Dapr is and where it's been and where are some of the places that it's going to go to in the future. And then again, you can kind of look and see about some of the other interesting things that have been happening in the Dapr space. One in particular on the right corner that I do want to talk about. So Dapr graduation due diligence. So that ticket was opened not that long ago, probably just a week or two ago, not that long ago. And so Dapr is in the graduation phase, we're working towards graduation. And so what happens is that in the CNCF TOC GitHub repo, you open up a ticket and essentially you vote on whether folks believe that they want this project to become a graduated CNCF project or not. And Mark, I think you have some news too that you want to share with folks, right, about this process?
Yes, well, just like a couple of hours ago, we received actually enough votes that Dapr is graduated now. So yeah, I think it's the first audience here that we can actually share it, that Dapr is a graduated project. I mean, of course, it will be announced officially by CNCF, probably just before KubeCon or at KubeCon. But yeah, we've got all the required votes now. So this has been months and months of work, especially for Mark Fussell and Jeroen Snyder. We had to do a lot of admin work and end user interviews, and a lot of stuff was involved to actually achieve this. So well done everyone, and also everyone, thanks for your support, because we could also vote. As you can see, there are 114 non-binding votes, so that's just people like you and me. But yeah, the votes actually count were actually by other different CNCF TOC members. But yeah, we made it, so it's an amazing milestone.
Yeah, this is definitely exciting. This has been a long conversation, right? We've been talking about this for a long time. The community has been amazing in supporting and voting and helping the project get to this milestone. So thank all of you that have been a part of Dapr for the last 5 years, been a part of this process and helping the project get over this milestone. And And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what's, when graduation is finalized, what it means for the project, how the project continues to grow, and some of the amazing things we can do. But even though that we're still pretty close, it's not done yet. Please feel free to go ahead and vote. We'll never turn away votes. So
No,
go
you
ahead,
can
go
still
ahead on
vote.
the
Yeah,
issue.
exactly. Yeah.
Go ahead on the video, hit the thumbs up button, give us a like or something like that, and let folks really see the magnitude of the community that is behind Dapr, and how you really feel about this project. Okay, let's head back over to the slides really quick. Let's see what we got here. All right, so we talked about graduation a little bit. So the Discord channel. So Mark's mentioned the Discord channel, and you saw it on the Dapr community page that he showed not too long ago. We I don't want to say we overemphasize Discord, because we can't overemphasize it, because it is the truth that Discord essentially is where a lot of these conversations happen. Outside of the code being built and the issues being raised inside of GitHub, everyone is in Discord talking about Dapr, talking about the different building blocks and the APIs, talking about the SDKs, sharing with us some of those blog posts that you saw inside of our show and tell. You know what I mean? Helping each other solve issues. So much stuff is happening in the Discord. It is a very active channel, and it is the place that you should go to when you have questions, when you're getting started with Dapr. You want a community to kind of assist you and answer some questions and kind of help you along the way. So these are just some of the interesting, conversations that are happening in some of the different channels. Like you see our workflow channel. A lot of stuff is happening in observability right now around open telemetry, and hopefully there should be some interesting updates coming in 1.15. I definitely hope folks check that out. With Waldo and and Oliver were just on here not too long ago talking about workflow and the workflow APIs, and that channel is very active as well. In addition to the job scheduling channel that's in there. So again, please join the Discord channel if you want to get started with Dapr. If you want to, again, just whether you're getting started, whether you want to try out a new building block or a new SDK, or maybe you want to become a Dapr contributor, this is definitely a place for you to go to. Mark, is there anything else? You think I missed anything there? Anything else you want to add to that
Well,
piece?
this is also intended as a shout out for all the people who are answering these questions, right? So Ollie is very active when it comes to workflow. Wit is also very active in workflow, and also the .NET SDK, because he's a maintainer there. Elena, one of my colleagues, is very active in the Python part, and also observability here. And Cassie is one of the authors of the job scheduling, so she answers questions about the jobs and scheduling frequently. So yeah, thank you everyone who also take their time to answer all of our questions here on Discord. So thanks.
Great. Thank you all so very much. All right. So next up, so again, we talked about this a little bit before, but if this is your first time coming to one of these community calls, if you've never seen these before, we do offer badges for folks. So our community badges are just really our way of saying thank you for supporting the project. Thank you for supporting Dapr. Thank you for being here. And you can use your phone or whatever device that you choose to use and scan that QR code that you see on your right, my left. I think my camera's turned around. I think it's over here. you can scan it with your device, and then you'll be able to claim this this Dapr badge. Now these are free. There's no money or there's no cost behind it. These are all digital assets. You'll just have to go to Holopin, the place that we host the badges, and sign up for an account. But other than that, you could, collect this amazing community supported badge that's here. And then we also have other badges, depending on, the types of contributions that you do. So if you write a blog post, we have a writer badge that's available. And then we also have a presenter badge that's available if you ever do any Dapr workshops, or you presented a conference or a user group or anything like the sort. And essentially all you have to do to get these is just let us know. Just let us know, send us a link or open an issue. Let us know about what you did and where you did it. If it's a blog post, if you have a link to the article that you can share with us, that'll be fantastic. And, I think every month or so, we kind of review these and, start to issue these badges out to folks. So again, feel free to go ahead and jump on and learn about these. And all these are linked to, if you head over to dapr.com, github.com/dapr/community in the community repository underneath the Dapr organization, you'll be able to learn about these as well as, some of the other community things that we're doing. And of course, we want to leave you with all these amazing resources that you could use to, again, get started with Dapr. Obviously, the Dapr website, the YouTube channel, where I believe most of you are watching us on right now. But then we also have our quick starts, our Discord channel, and then we have the X/Twitter channel, and then also the Blue Sky channel or Blue Sky account. And folks that are using Blue Sky, I don't think we have one on Mastodon. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. If folks are on Mastodon and they want to talk to us on Mastodon, let us know, and we could, we can have that conversation as well. But I think that's it for today. So again, folks, thank you all so much for being here. Appreciate you. This Dapr community call, we do these every other week. Like we do these every 2 weeks. So the next one will be in about 2 weeks. If you are interested in presenting, if you have ideas or, you want to suggest topics that you'd love to hear about, again, head over to that, Dapr/community repository on GitHub. And, we have issues there where we schedule these community calls, and you can let us know what are some of the things that you'd love to hear about. Mark, anything you want to add before we go?
No, this is excellent. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here again, and we will see you all in the next 2 weeks for our next Dapr community call, folks. And I am just trying to find okay, there we go. All right, folks, we'll take care, and we'll see you again next time.